let me first of all say I've never raised taxes. I've never pushed for tax increases. I've never voted for tax increases, and I never will vote for tax increases. You can take it to the bank. With regard to which agencies we should shut down, I could start listing several and certainly restricting several others. Let's start with the EPA, shall we? Can you imagine that people in Washington, D.C. and on the coast of our country who have far dirtier air than we do and don't produce nearly what we do, think that they love our clean air more than we love it, and that somehow they ought to be able to intrude on my regulatory authority as your representative in North Dakota? Let's get rid of the EPA. We do it better in North Dakota. Let's close down the Department of Education, not only because of the massive intrusion into our rights of how we educate our children, but think of how much more efficiently we would do it. Let's rein in the Department of Health and Human Services. Let's turn more direct block grant without strings attached dollars, if we must, to faith-based organizations, to states, to local communities and private entities that don't have to abide by the cost of the bureaucracy. We do it better, with better results, frankly, at a much lower cost. Let's get rid of, how about the Department of Energy? The Department of Energy was founded to help us achieve energy independence. Now we send $1 trillion a year to regions of the world run by people like Mahmoud Ahmadinejad and Hugo Chavez so they can take the money and kill us while the oil's on the way. And then we pass crazy legislation like cap and trade to cap the recovery of our own domestic sources of energy that increase both our national security, our economic security, as well as demonstrate good stewardship of the land and grow our own economy. There are lots of agencies we could close, and there are a lot of them we could pare back, and we'd be a lot more efficient, and we'd save a lot of money.
You know, Kevin keeps stealing all my lines.
Here you go. Get to go first soon.
Well, the first agency that, the first federal agency that I plan to annihilate is the Internal Revenue Service. If you'll look at the handout that I brought with you, I proposed 7 different pieces of legislation. The first one being the 28th Amendment to the Constitution, which would repeal the 16th Amendment to the Constitution and remove all federal authority to collect and levy taxes and collect from all incomes and from all sources derived. In addition, we would send that out to the states to ratify. Now that might take a couple of months, might take a couple of years, so in the interim time, I proposed the Free Tax Act. I could have just as easily called that the Freedom From Tax Act. It would get rid of all income taxes, dividends, profit taxes, capital gains taxes, and it would replace that with a 10% gross receipts tax. Based on last year's income revenue, income tax revenue, versus if we would have had a 10% gross receipts tax, we would have gained $400 billion more in income from a 10% gross receipts tax versus this crushing, bone-killing, man-killing kind of income tax system that we have that thwarts our ability to grow our economy back. I also proposed the Federal Budget Priority Act, and I guess we'll have to speak about that a little more in detail here in a few minutes, but one thing that would do would separate our budget funds so that we can actually get some control, get a handle on our budget. It would separate it to a debt reduction fund, which should, according to my calculations, get us completely out of debt in 24 years. It would also propose a defense spending fund, which is an obvious one. It would isolate the Social Security Trust Fund, and it would then allow the rascals up there to argue about our discretionary spending.
Yeah, I don't have enough time to answer this one.
Joy, repeat that part about the
No. Okay, we have a list here. First of all, end the stimulus program immediately. It's done nothing for private businesses or individuals to stimulate the economy. It's only been political payoffs, and it is a very corrupting process for every state to handle this kind of money. The TARP, it's mostly paid back instead of reusing that money for a slush fund or an artificial jobs program. should use money paid back in the TARP to retire debt, and write off what can't be paid back as bad debt. IRS should go. I'm in favor of the fair tax. I know that when I'm in the U.S. Senate, it will take some time to get enough sensible people in the Senate to pass that, but the fair tax would significantly improve our economic condition immediately. In fact, I feel it's essential for our long-term recovery. I'd also encourage foreign investment, which has to be done. So by eliminating the IRS through the fair tax, you stimulate the economy, level the playing field with foreign competitors, and you draw in foreign investment, including American assets from overseas. So it's like kind of a 4 or 5 for 1 deal there. We dump all government-owned private entities such as Chrysler and GM and some of the financial institutions and give back money to that was supposed to be collateral for lenders of those failed institutions, those businesses. I think there's a couple of departments that need to go and need to be given power back from those, which would be the Department of Energy, Department of Education, and those functions should go back to the individual states as would be appropriate. I think any program or department also that's not authorized in the enumerated powers should go back. Any department or program that's been a failure over time should be closed down. And all unfunded mandates from the federal government, some of which have been created by our Supreme Court, need to be ended. And we need to streamline regulation, which would mean ending these long, drawn-out red tape processes such as Sarbanes-Oxley, which was a knee-jerk reaction to a couple of big companies going under, but it has basically eliminated our technology industry. There's been no IPOs, virtually no IPOs in Silicon Valley since that's been enacted, and it's costed startup companies millions of dollars every year. And then we need to reform our entitlements. I told you I wouldn't have enough time.
I was gonna say, you're not killing